Chopper just desperately doesn't want to be afraid anymore, and this chapter was great at just showing him start to kind of break out of his shell and really recognize his own self-worth.
One Piece Chapter 262, Pirate Chopper versus Priest Gedatsu.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and awe-inspiring, wickedly, awesomely cool tale of One Piece. I have to think up some more words to put in there because I think awesome has been used a few times, so we'll definitely take suggestions for those in the comments down below. If there's anything in particular that you think I should say at the beginning to describe this marvelous, masterful tale of One Piece, please let me know. Now, our last chapter, of course, saw things kind of, splitting off amongst the groups and what have you, and really things winding up with Gedatsu coming upon Chopper, and Chopper, noticing, oh shit, that's Gedatsu. And so really that's where things left off, and that's where things pick up. And really this was a cool chapter in the sense that it's very much Chopper versus Gedatsu. Who, as far as we can tell and ascertain at this point, is probably one of, if not the strongest priest of Enel. And Chopper certainly has had his issues. He feels very, very self-conscious about himself and doesn't have a lot of self-worth, especially after, the fight on the Going Merry. Really just with Shura. And really, I think just is kind of looking to prove himself. So the chapter starts out, and this Gedatsu is just a complete. It's like he's not even from the planet. I don't know what his deal is, and he's still got his eyes rolled up into his head, and he's just like, oh my god, what? The creature must have disappeared. Does he have the power to disappear? And frickin' Chopper's like, oh my god, he's like, well, I can see the whites of his eyes. The whites of his eyes are scary, and Chopper's still freaking. But then he's just like one of his minions, Gedatsu's minions, like, oh, master, your eyes are still rolled back into your head, you can't see. Chopper's like, what is this guy, an idiot, So he winds up going and, giving his little speech, his little monologue, as I like to call him, to Chopper about his swamp challenge and this and that. And then he goes, oh yeah, and by the way, the survival rate's only 50%, I forgot to tell you. And I'm thinking, okay, whatever, this goofball. So as he's talking to him about these swamp clouds that you sink into, he's actually sinking in, and he's sunk in up to about, I don't know, about his chest, I guess, Chopper's like, you're the one that's sinking, what the hell is your deal? And then he's just like, oh yeah, swamp challenge, something, milky dials, right? And he goes and comes, jetting up out of the cloud, and you can see that he has like these jet dials, or these milky dials, whatever, that are on his actual feet or attached to his shoes, I guess, that keep him up in the air. So anyway, then he goes and he's just like, swamp cloud burger, and he's like, he's talking about the sticky cloud that envelopes you and this and that, and he fires it down, and all of a sudden his minion guy's like, no, Master Gedatsu, not me. It gets on him, So Chopper's watching this all, and this guy's struggling. He's like, man, the more he struggles, the more he sinks into it. It's like a quicksand, sticky cloud type thing, right? That's like suffocating him or whatever. So as Gedatsu is going and coming down and Chopper winds up dodging a move from him or whatever. Chopper winds up going and kind of just, hulking up into his bigger form, his human form, and going and actually trying to, get this guy breathing again and kind of pull him out of the cloud, make sure he's okay. And so then Gedatsu's just like, oh, yeah, that you can't believe you were saved by the enemy and this and that, And Chopper's like, hey, let's team up and be buddies and beat this guy together. He's looking for some help, And the guy's like, yeah, and Gedatsu's minion, he's like, this is unacceptable, master, and basically like, you're fucked now, I'm gonna attack you. And he's gonna go and come at him, and he's got this axe dial and everything else, and then Gedatsu's like, as you wish, and then he's like, super jet speed dial, or super jet boost dial, whatever it is, and he basically does this cool like side move where he puts his hand out, and then he talks about how he's got these jets, and it looks like they're attached to his elbows, and he goes, it gives me the super propulsion and everything like that. He goes, the only drawback is that it rips my clothes when I do it. So he jacks that guy up. So now Chopper's like, oh shit, now my ally's not even around, And the next several pages wind up kind of being a cat and mouse game of Gedatsu going and going to hit Chopper and to nail Chopper, and Chopper, moving out of the way and using, using his jumping boost to get up out of the way, and then trying to use his horn point thing to hit Gedatsu. And again, they kind of go back and forth for a few minutes. For me, though, it was really cool because there was this turning point in the whole battle. And Chopper, of course, is desperately trying to figure out a weakness and see what he can do to actually beat this guy, you know. And he's still kind of freaked out, overwhelmed, and terrified that this is actually one of, you know, the god Enel's, you know, priests, right? So I keep wanting to say vassals because you got to remember I read it in the manga here, and it says vassals. It says, you know, it says kami, all that stuff and everything. And then I kind of got to translate it in my head as I'm spitting out this review here. But anyway, they go back and forth for a while, and he winds up going and using his brain boost as he's actually he winds up using his guard boost as he's falling because one of those milky swampy clouds gets sent at him or whatever, one of the sticky burger clouds, you know, gets sent at him, and then he goes and he uses the brain boost, you know, as he's kind of falling, and he winds up taking a pretty direct hit, I guess you would say, from Gedatsu. And actually taking some damage, you know, but as he falls, he gets that brain boost in, and he winds up, it's, you know, Gedatsu's kind of standing on top of almost like this little rock, this little hill, and Chopper's just kind of like, oh, like beaten and bloodied down by him, you know, kind of like just down by his feet, and Chopper's like, yeah, but I saw his weakness, right? So as he goes and goes to kind of grab at his foot or whatever, Chopper then goes and he's like, I can't be beaten. This is the turning point for him. He's like, I can't be useless anymore. I can't run away. I have to be valuable to the team, you know? I mean, I can beat this guy. I have to do it. I have to stop being a, you know, being a pussy, basically. So he goes and being scared, you know, and that's really, like I said, it's the coming of age turning point for him anyway, you know, wanting to be a valuable member of the crew. So he goes and uses his jumping boost and flies up into the air, right? And Gedatsu's like, yeah, you know, what did I tell you? And he keeps calling him a raccoon, you know. He's like, what did I tell you? You says something about you raccoon, you know. He's like, you can't beat me in a sky battle. and you got to remember, this guy's weird. He's the one with the elbows in all the time and stuff like that. Just really, it's like he's a freaking alien from another planet. But so he goes to jet himself up in the air. And as he goes up in the air, he's like, woo, woo, woo. He starts doing cartwheels, you know. And I'm like, what the hell? Chopper went and saw that his weak point was his feet, right? That he uses those milky dials, obviously, to propel himself up into the air, and Chopper pulled off one of his shoes. So now when he went and fired himself up in the air, he's off kilter. He's not even anymore. So he went flying out into orbit, you know. Well, not orbit, but, you know, went flying up. And then Chopper goes, and I like this. I had that page saved, and then somehow I closed it when I was when I was doing it. So then Chopper goes, and he does that, and he's just like, I'm a monster, I'm strong, you know. And the guy's, you know, goes to come at him with this jet punch or whatever. And then Chopper goes and pulls out the Cloven Cross, right? And I mean, just boom! Just waylays Gedatsu, you know? And I thought that was actually really cool because, to tell you the truth, and I mean, this winds up being the end of the chapter, but to tell you the truth, I didn't have a lot of faith just based on our previous experiences with Chopper. Listen, I really like the character, and as a matter of fact, you know, it was one of my wife's favorite characters as well, so I don't speak negatively against him. But when you go and you look at the whole of things, he's really there in more of a supporting role, or at least has been up to this point, and hasn't done a whole lot in the way of taking on any major enemies. However, I gotta say that I really enjoyed him and Usopp and their battle with Mr. Four and Miss Merry Christmas back in Alabasta, because if you remember, that was a pretty hard-fought battle, and to tell you the truth, that and the battle with Nami and Miss Doublefinger, to me, were the most memorable because they're the closest to being normal characters, and they were going and fighting against what are abnormal, or like these superhuman characters with these otherworldly, these greater powers, these devil fruit powers. And don't get me wrong, I know Chopper has one as well, but it's kind of neat to see him progress, is I guess my point, you know. So definitely a fun chapter. I certainly enjoyed it. My chapter question is, though, what are your thoughts on Chopper at this point? I know a lot of people are like, well, he's cute, and then there's other people like, well, he's kind of worthless, and other people are like, yeah, he's there because he's there, you know. He's not one of the monster trio. I get that, but what are your thoughts right now, after this battle at least, on Chopper and kind of his value and worth to the crew? I also like to hear your thoughts on what I brought up, which feels like it was kind of a turning point in the series, at least up until this point. For me, it was a turning point for him to just kind of increase his self-worth and make himself feel as if he's a viable member of the crew. So leave your answer to any of those questions that you'd like to answer in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
To see more drawings like this one, go on over to my Facebook or Instagram page and check them on out.